Hi everyone, this is part 5 of my series, Weird Facts About the Moon. Now I was just getting into my flow, I was just getting warmed up in part 4. Now, as you know, when you're uploading from webcam, you're recording, you get like 15 minutes, and I was just getting carried away, I was getting a bee in my bonnet, I was, and then like the bloody thing ended, the 15 minutes were up, and so it stopped, and it started like, whatever it does, processing or whatever. So I've lost my flow, but I'll find my feet in a minute. But we're now in part 5. So yeah, I was talking in part 4, right, about the last thing I said was the fact that the moon affects people. Right? Just a quick recap. Obviously, humans are made up of mostly water, right? And the moon obviously has an effect on water, because look at the size of our oceans on the earth. The oceans make up 2/3 of the earth, right? And the moon completely governs the tides, the oceans, the currents, everything. Women have their periods, and that's all moon based. So the moon is like a big effect on our lives, not just upon the earth, right? It affects the earth obviously in many ways, but us humans too. So then, right, just kind of drawing my own personal conclusion on all my moon research, right, the fact that it is obvious that the moon, right, now there's two things I want to say. Number one, the moon wasn't here from year dot, right? The moon wasn't here at the very start when the earth was here. The moon came along sometime later. I don't know when, but the moon, right, has come along at some point in time after humankind were upon the earth. Right? I've researched, there's some ancient peoples that spoke of a time before the moon was here. Right? So the moon came along one time. Now, it is obvious that the moon just didn't naturally occur in the solar system, because we've gone into that in parts 1, 2 and 3, and you should watch those parts. It's too bloody weird that the moon should just occur. Okay? It's not right. The moon isn't right. That was my first video I ever did. My very first video that I uploaded on my channel was entitled "The Moon is Not Right." And it's true, the moon is not right. Now, it was nothing to do with this, right? My first video, it was about the moon. It was behaving weird. It was like going through its like different phases in one night, as opposed to a month. The moon goes through a sequence of phases during a month, doesn't it? Right? Whereas like the moon has been acting weird lately, going through different phases in the period of one night, and I'm not the only one to notice that. There's some weird shit going on up in space right now, right? There's some weird shit going on in space. There's like, now you're gonna think I'm crazy, but just bloody do your research, right? Check it out. Look at the information out there, right? There are spaceships, cubes, weird comets that don't behave right. The sun isn't behaving right. Nothing is behaving right. Everything's different, right? But anyway, I can't go. I'm not. This isn't a video about that, and I haven't prepared myself to talk about that, so I'm not gonna. But check it out. Now, some of you will just be like saying amen to me right now because you know what I'm talking about. Okay, and for those who are like, what the hell am I talking about? Well, check it out. So back to the moon. So basically, yeah, so we said number one, the moon has arrived at some point. Okay, so then the question is, right, okay, so my conclusion is that the moon is artificial, right? The moon was put there. So then, naturally, the next question, this is my second point, is what is the purpose of the moon, right? What is the motive behind the people? People? Okay. Well, I'll say people, but what is the motive behind the life forms, whoever they are, who placed the moon where it is today? What is the motive and what is the purpose? Well, so that's the next thing. Now, the book that I was in the first few parts of my video, I was like I was talking about a book that I read many years ago called Who Built the Moon. It was a bloody good book, right? And David Icke, whose book I've been referring to throughout my series, he had a chapter in his book about the spaceship moon, was the name of the chapter. And he refers to this book, this same book that I read many years ago, called Who Built the Moon. And the conclusion, and this book, it was very thorough, and it went into like loads of interesting stuff. It was wild, it was crazy, it was great, you know, really going into it, and very serious. I was wanting to say very professional, but that's not the right word. But it was very well backed up, you know, the things that were being said, well referenced, I suppose that's the word. And then they were kind of coming to a conclusion, and they were ruling out, they were going through a process of elimination, and they ruled out that God made the moon. I don't rule that out, right? I think that quite possibly God made the moon. Okay, but then again, I'm inclined to not believe that. I do believe that God created the cosmos and the earth, but I don't believe that God created the moon, and for various reasons which we'll go into in a second. Okay, but like, so he ruled that out. He ruled out extraterrestrials. Okay, and his final conclusion I don't agree with, right? I lean towards the extraterrestrial theory, that the extraterrestrials placed the moon where it is, right? Now when I say that, I think that either extraterrestrials placed the moon where it is, right, already hollowed out and made into a spaceship. Sounds crazy, but you need to watch the whole series before you judge me. Okay. They either did that, or else they utilized an already existing object. You know, maybe the Earth had a moon, and okay, let's just pretend for a moment that, although it's like unlikely that the Earth would have such a big satellite the size of the moon, let's just assume that it was just a weird thing, and that we did have a moon the size of the moon, and it was in Earth's orbit. It could be that they took that object and utilized it, hollowed it out, made it the way they want it, and in addition to that, with their technology, thrusted it, somehow maneuvered it to the place that they wanted it, because it certainly didn't sit in the place where it sits today naturally, right? Because the maths, too much mathematical harmony. Okay, right, so there's the extraterrestrial theory, which I'd go with. Okay, the conclusion of these people that wrote this book, it was like co-authors, it was two of them, right? They said, and I think this is crazy, I can see where they're coming from, but I don't believe it. They said that the moon was placed where it is by bloody humans, right, from the future. Yeah. Humans, like what, I don't know, millions of years in the future, right? And they look like greys, because some people think that greys are actually humans from the future, and that we evolve, and you know, maybe we started off like apes and now we look like how we do, and that in a few million years we're going to look like the Greys, and the Greys that we see today are actually like humans from our future. They're like your future, like, grandchildren, great, whatever. Okay, and that okay, so the Greys, the humans, us from the future, right? Like massively technologically advanced, have the technology to time travel, and they time travel back in time and place the moon where the moon is. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't. That's the head fuck, that is a head fuck. I'm sorry, but it's easier for me to believe in aliens, right? Because, like, how do you go back in time and put something there that life depends on? Well, how did they get there in the future? Don't even go there. Just don't even go there. It's like, I don't get it at all. So I'm not even gonna try and reason that in my mind. So yeah, I think that it was the extraterrestrials, and it sounds absolutely crazy. And there are going to be people that are like, this guy's crazy, I'm not going to watch any more of his videos. But like I said, you need to watch the whole series on my moon series. And you know what? I've maybe scratched the surface, and who knows, maybe over the coming months I'll read other, or come across other bits and pieces of information regarding the moon, and it will reinforce this whole theory, and I'll be able to share it with you. Or just maybe, because I'm that kind of person, I'll disprove everything that I've talked about, because that's the kind of person I am. I'm not one of these that, like, okay, I make up my mind what I want to believe and just believe it forevermore, no matter what new evidence arises, and just fight it to the death. That's what human nature is. People don't like to admit defeat, don't like to admit that they're wrong. Well, I consider myself a person who evolves and continuously learning, and if that requires, if I learn something that dismisses past preconceived ideas or beliefs, then I have to change. Otherwise, you're at a standstill. So yeah. So I shall keep an eye open, keep an ear to the ground, and see if I encounter any more information. I got that for Father's Day. I love my daddy. That was for my son. Yeah. Right, so anyway, I'm talking next about how to protect yourself from solar flares. Check out my video I did just yesterday. It's about these imminent solar storms that are coming, whether you believe in solar storms or not. There are some of you that are sat at home and you're saying, these bloody New Agers, bloody truthers, nutcases, coming up with all these things, past, present and future. Well, I've got something to say to you, and it's not to scare you, it's just to prepare you, right? It's like the old saying goes, don't be scared, be prepared. I mean, like, especially you religious people out there, you Christians, I know that you are the worst. I'm sorry for being blunt, but you guys are the worst for saying these things that I've just quoted. And yet your own Bible says that these days shall be as in the days of Noah, when people were getting married and eating and drinking and going about your daily business. And yet, I'm out of time. Anyway, so check out my solar flares video coming up.